UFO and ET 101.
I think that there's definitely something there, some kind of phenomenon.
For most of my life, I ran from a deep and illogical fear because it felt fantastical and bordering on insanity. I kept it to myself until 2017, when the ETs I feared the most, the Greys, left physical messages on my body. My parents and I emigrated from Istanbul, Turkey, to Montreal, Canada, where my sister was born, and then we settled into the Washington, D.C. area. I grew up in the D.C., Virginia, Maryland area, and I started first grade not knowing English. And it feels like I learned it very quickly, almost overnight, because at that age, learning languages is easy. So at home, I spoke Turkish, and outside, I spoke English. I helped my parents learn English, and at a very young age, I assumed a lot of responsibility when it came to explaining things to my parents, interpreting, making phone calls. It matured me quickly. Turkey is a Muslim country. We were not Muslim. My parents were born and raised in Turkey, and when they were old enough, they decided the religion was not for them. I was not brought up with any religious ideology. However, I was surrounded by spirituality. I never heard my parents speak negatively about any race or nationality of people, and education and freedom of thought were emphasized in our home. Our house was filled with books and records. My parents read The Chariots of the Gods, The Crystal Skull. And when I was in elementary school, I remember walking into my parents' bedroom and seeing my mom read a book, the cover of which freaked the heck out of me. It was the Seth book. And because that cover freaked me out so much, I couldn't read Seth for a long time. It reminds me of the cover of Communion, Whitley Strieber's book. I couldn't look at that cover for decades. We had books in the house that were about religions, metaphysics, astronomy, mathematics, ancient history. My parents told us, you can be any religion you want. Take your pick. I never chose a religion, and interestingly, I graduated from a religious school, Loyola University, with a Bachelor of Science degree in biology. I was pre-med. I had an internship at University of Maryland Hospital, and I realized I don't want to go to medical school. I finished up, I graduated, and then I had to figure out who I was and what was I going to do, because the plan was medical school. I became an entrepreneur. I created a few businesses and companies, and I've worked in small businesses and in corporate America. From age 10 until now, I've been having ET contact and seeing spaceships. And this includes a trip to the White Sands Missile Range in 2016, where I made contact with the Greys in Roswell. And this was a shared experience with my partner at the time. I've also encountered other beings and have interacted with them. I've seen UFOs up close and from a distance. I've seen orbs and light beings. Many of us have had these experiences. I'm not special. I believe there are millions of us interacting with non-human intelligence, extraterrestrials, beings from other dimensions. I describe some of my ET contact in my book, You Have the Right to Talk to Aliens. And you can hear me talk about my ET contact in interview shows and TV shows on my YouTube channel. So I'm not going to go into them here, but I am going to tell you about the ET contact that changed my life. It happened right here on the inner banks of North Carolina in a tiny coastal town. It was September 2017, and my partner then and I moved here from Capitol Hill, Washington, D.C. It was the second morning that we were here. I was in the kitchen unpacking dishes, and I felt something bite my butt, and it hurt. So I yell over to him, "I think something bit my butt. Will you look at it?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I get to the couch, and I bend over, and he's looking, and he's not saying anything. And I'm getting nervous, and I'm waiting, and there's nothing. So finally, "Well, did a bug bite me?" And he says,
There's an X mark.
X. He took a picture, and when I saw that X on the left cheek of my tush, I knew intuitively it was the Greys. Back then, I was afraid of them. I thought they were messing with me. I thought they were intimidating me, abusing me. I thought they were doing lots of bad things to me because that was pretty much how I viewed the world. My perspective back then was the perspective of a victim. He was stunned. We both were. And I didn't say anything. I was very afraid and angry at the same time. And he's just looking at me for an answer. So I told him, "We're going to pretend like this never happened." Now, this red X was 1.5 to 2 inches wide, and it was made up of 9 small, equidistant red dots that looked like they were burned into my skin. And then, 9 days later, I come to in my bedroom. Ding! That's what it feels like after ET contact. I'm plopped back into a 3D reality, and I'm wide awake. There's no grogginess, there's no sleepiness, nothing, just ding! My eyes are open, I'm fully alert. And I have this download of a memory. It's a movie playing in my third eye. I was on a bed that looked like a hospital bed, and I was on my side, and I couldn't move my arms and I couldn't move my legs. And I didn't know where I was. It was a dimly lit room with hardly any furniture. And I felt that there was something behind me and I could turn my neck. So I did, and standing right behind me, just a couple of inches from me, was a gray doing something to my back. And we locked eyes and we just stared into each other's eyes. And in my book, I describe it like I was looking into 2 pools of black oil. In my other ET contact with the Greys that I had prior to this, there was always telepathic communication. But this time there was nothing. And that really scared me. So I turned my head back around and ding! I'm wide awake in my bedroom. So I get out of bed and I go downstairs to get some coffee. He always got up before I did, but not this time. So I'm waiting for him, and I'm really afraid because if there's another X mark on me, I know that I'm not going to be able to handle it. It's going to be too much for me. It's going to push me off the cliff. So I'm waiting for him. I could have looked in the mirror, but I was so afraid that if there was an X, I didn't want to be alone when I saw it. I wanted someone to be there. So he finally comes downstairs, and I start to ask him questions. Did anything weird happen last night? No. Did you see anything unusual? No. Now, we had the Roswell incident before this, so he knew something was up. And I asked him, was I missing at all in the middle of the night? And he said, no. What happened? So I told him my memory. And there was also something else that I had never known in any of my other ET contact. And I knew that when I was on that bed in that room with that gray behind me doing something to my back, I was on the moon. So I tell him all this, and then I ask him the $1 million question. Will you look at my butt? And once again, I bend over, and there's silence. He's not saying anything, and I'm starting to get panicked. And I'm waiting, and he's saying nothing. So finally, well, is there another X mark? And he says, yes, there's another X mark, just like the first one. This time it's on your right cheek, and they're directly across from each other. He took a picture, and when I saw this X, there's really no words to describe what went through me. The closest thing I can come up with is an existential crisis. Because other than just being extremely afraid and confused, I didn't know anything anymore. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I was doing talking to aliens in the middle of the night. I didn't know what they wanted with me. I didn't know who we were as a human race. I knew nothing. I felt like I was just dangling in emptiness. Like everything I have ever known to be true about myself and the human race was yanked right out from underneath me. And that's a scary feeling. And he asked me, how can I help you? And I didn't know. I had no answer for that. And I started to cry just out of frustration and fear. And I calmed myself down, and I said, for the first time in my life, I need help. I can't go through this by myself. But I had no idea who was going to help me. I didn't know what was going on in the UFO world. I wasn't watching TV shows and listening to ufologists. I was steering clear of that. So the thought of who was going to help me just seemed impossible. Like, is there even anybody out there that helps people who come face to face with an alien? And I decided, I don't have answers. I don't need answers. I'm just going to let this organically happen. And then a couple months later, a friend suggested I watch Unacknowledged by Dr. Stephen Greer. And that lit a fire inside me. And when that was over, I went to my computer and I decided I'm going to send a picture of this X to somebody. But who do I send it to? And I heard in my head, MUFON. What the heck is that? MUFON? What's that? And it's a real thing. It's a real organization, the Mutual UFO Network. And on the website, I saw a picture of Kathleen Marden. And as soon as I saw her, I said to myself, she's the one. She's going to help me. So I emailed her, sent her the X, and she responded right away. And she was so generous with her time. And she spent an hour and a half with me. She validated so much, and it was one of the most important conversations of my life. And I asked her, what am I supposed to do with the information that the Greys have given me about the hybridization program, about spirituality, how to strengthen our psychic ability, potential fate of humankind, scientific innovation, because I see myself in my mind's eye on stage. But that idea is bananas, because back then there was no way I was going to tell anybody I was talking to ETs, especially my clients. My clients couldn't know I was doing that. I would lose them all. So to see myself on stage talking about this just blew my mind. And Kathy said, oh, I can't tell you what to do. You have to figure that out. So a couple of months later, I wake up and I declare, I'm writing a book and I'm going to call it You Have the Right to Talk to Aliens, and I'm coming out. Now, the night before, when I went to bed, I had no intention of coming out or writing a book. But when I woke up in the morning, it was like a done deal. I'm doing it. I don't know what happened. But I sat down, I wrote the book pretty quickly, and it debuted on Amazon. And then a week or two later, I heard from AlienCon, which is affiliated with Ancient Aliens. Congratulations, you're a speaker at AlienCon in Baltimore, Maryland. The best place for me to come out, Baltimore, Maryland, where I had a lot of ET contact. My mom's still there, my sister's there, my friends. It was a wonderful place for me to stand up in a room full of strangers and tell them the thing that I'm afraid of the most in life. And when I was at my vendor table, for 3 days, people were coming up and saying, I've never told anybody this before, but, and then they would tell me about their ET contact. And they were emotional. And it was important. And I felt honored to hear it. And that's when I realized, aha, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Helping experience. So today, I'm an experiencer advocate. I've been helping experiencers for the past 7 years from all around the world process what happened to them. Because I don't want anyone to live with the fear and the confusion that I had, because that messes up your life. You can't put this off to the side and then pretend like the rest of your life is fine. It's not fine. We have to learn to integrate. Across from my vendor table is a lady who has 2 vendor tables, and her theme is Doctor Who, and she did it really well. So there's a little bit of a lull with the people walking through the conference, and I'm sitting there and I look over at her and she looks at me and she gets up and she walks over and she points to my name and she asks, is that your real name? Yes. It sounds like a Klingon name. And your boyfriend's really cute.